You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Man, we are here once again. And man, you know what time it is. We have another amazing show lined up for y'all today. Man, if you're looking to master your mindset, unlock your true potential, and become that real leader that you're meant to be, you want to stick for this episode. We're going to talk to Vincent, aka Vin Infante. He has an amazing website where he does his amazing mentorship and coaching. He's also a therapist. It's www.vincentinfante.life. Had to put those pauses in there. First and foremost, man, I want to say thank you, Vin, taking time in your schedule talking to us today, man. How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, it's great to have you on. So, man, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you are a former firefighter, but you do amazing things now. You are living an amazing life as far as your service to others. Kind of give us a backstory on you.
Sure. So I lived a life of victimhood for the most part, honestly. I think it's still even amazing to myself, almost to the state of bewilderment, when I get the privilege to just look at my life and reflect on where I am right now. I grew up, I got bullied a lot. I was the dude that got thrown in trash cans. Like, you know, the stuff you used to see on TV shows and movies, and you'd be like, that's ridiculous. Who does that actually happen to? That happened to me, man. I was literally like thrown in trash cans. I was pushed into lockers. I had no friends. I couldn't get a girlfriend. I was a little bit chubby. And I struggled a lot with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. My younger years were really heavy for me. And I tried to reinvent myself, unsuccessfully, but also very successfully, if that makes sense. When I was getting out of high school, you ever hear that saying, at some point you just kind of get sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that was me in high school. I was like, you know, this isn't working. I hate my life. I'm miserable every day. I think about suicide way more than any teenager should. And I was like, something probably has to change. And so I took every college transcript that I wound up sending out, and I wrote the name Vincenzo on all of them. And Vincenzo was going to be this reinvented, cool version of myself. And over the summer, I started working on me. I started going to the gym. I started, I grew out a beard. I started styling different. And I became really cool with an external appearance. And that worked. I started getting attention from women. I started getting guys that wanted to be my friends because I was cool now and I was getting attention from women. And then I took school more seriously. Say I graduated high school with like a 68, dude. The only school I got accepted to was a community college that, well, I lived next to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't do great. So going into college, I got a little more serious. Now, I was doing good in school. I graduated in Psych National Honor Society. I had a 3.8 psych GPA, a 3.6 overall GPA, and I got accepted to every master's program that I applied to. Not that that really means much of anything. That just meant I was good at taking tests and writing papers. Now, going to my master's program, and I'm doing great again. I'm doing okay. But things are getting worse for me mentally. I'm having these mental breakdowns every week. I'm spiraling out of control. I have my therapist on speed dial. He wants to put me on medication. And life's getting worse. I wanted to drop out of college every semester. And somehow I made it. I still, it was just such a blur. But I still don't remember the intricate details, but somehow I made it. And at 23 years old, I call this my moment in the mirror. I finally graduated college. I had my master's. I had some money in the bank. I was working 2 jobs. I was ready to become a full licensed therapist. I had a hot girlfriend. I was driving a Camaro. I was the man from the outside point of view, but my insides were still fucked up, so to speak. And when I had this one day, where I'll never forget it. It was a summer day, and I was in the bathroom at my parents' house, and I was just feeling all the emotions. I was feeling anger. I was feeling sadness, frustration, anxiety. I was so fed up, and I slammed my hands on the counter, and I was like, "What is wrong with me? Why do I still feel this shit, man?" And I looked in the mirror, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "I get it. You're Vincent. And that was the first time in 7 years I said my actual name instead of going by Vincenzo. And what I did in that moment was I took back all my power. And I realized that that was such an amazing and powerful moment for me because I finally accepted myself, which was something I was avoiding. And I swear, man, as woo-woo and spiritual and hippie as it might sound, in that moment, I actually felt true peace. And it's almost as if my anxiety and depression started disappearing just in that moment. And I started working on this understanding that as you gain more control over life, life feels better. And that whole scenario beforehand, all the suffering I had was caused by me giving away my power, my emotion, my feelings. And so in that's where the whole aspect of me teaching internal leadership and unlocking your leader and mastering your mindset began. And that was my journey. And that was where I started. And ever since then, it was just a life of servitude, right? Life of being a therapist and a firefighter and a coach and a mentor. And that's kind of what led me here. And so I know I monopolized the first piece, but you asked about what got me here, and that was it.
No, that's perfect, man. By the way, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to Vin Infante. And yeah, I mean, that's super cool. But when it comes to leadership, and it sounds like you had confidence. It's not that you didn't have confidence. It's just that you were still trying to sharpen different areas in your life. Was it a sense of, okay, I'm already confident, but I just got to acknowledge that I have some weak points in my life? Was that the case? And if so, what was the process like overcoming, knowing the reality of that?
It's a good question. I don't know if it was that I actually did have confidence. I think that throughout life we can observe, right? Like one of the cool things about being human is we're pretty good at observing shit.
Yeah.
And I think I observed things that confident people did. And so I was mirroring them, but you ever heard the term dissociation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the psychological terms for the audience who may not know, it's when you are in something or you're experiencing something, but you feel nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say it was almost a confidence dissociation. Like I knew if I had the car, I knew if I looked a certain way, I could get the girl and I could have the friends. But I didn't feel like I was actually worthy of these things. I didn't feel like I was capable of even keeping them. So I started developing anxious attachment styles. And again, I'm throwing out psychological terms. So for those of you that don't know, an anxious attachment style is when you do too much to try and preserve the relationships you have because you're aware you're not enough to keep them. And so you start doing way too much and overcompensating and becoming too much for others around you. This is where multiple texts come in. This is where you feel upset or offended because people didn't invite you out. And then you start questioning your own worth. And so there were so many things that were seemingly breaking me down with every behavior I did that would look like it was building me up. So that's a lot of probably where even imposter syndrome starts getting born, right? It's the aspect of, what successful people are doing and you might be mirroring it, but you don't truly feel it. So I would say that's what it was for me.
Man, that's some good stuff, because it's also like, what if someone is, I don't know, they are trying to mirror something, right, of what other successful people are doing, but they themselves are not that successful, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
how does a person, I mean, every person is different, obviously, but how does one take that approach to attempt to get that fixed and get that kind of recognized? Because denial is always the worst thing someone can do. But someone who's true to themselves to say, you know what, I need to recognize this crap. Okay, how can I start fixing this?
Right. Well, that's where I talk about the power of that moment in the mirror. That moment in the mirror, when I said my own name, that was me being willing to accept everything, right? I think from me, I was running from everything. That's why I didn't want to be called Vincent. But when I said I'm Vincent, what that really wasn't just me saying my name. That was me saying, I am willing to accept everything that Vincent is, all the good and the bad. all the shit that sucked, all the stuff that was awesome, everything that made me me, because we all have parts of us that could be improved, aka the parts of us that might suck. Or we also have parts of us that are awesome and we really like, but maybe we dim down because others might make fun of it. Like, dude, I've always been a nerd. I've always been the dude that wanted to play video games. I've always been the dude that wanted to sit there and play tabletop games and paint miniature figures because I thought that was cool. And when people would make fun of me for that, I'd like shut it down, and I didn't want to embrace that side of me. And so I wasn't being true to myself in multiple ways. And so I believe if you want to start changing, that question that you asked, if you want to start changing, you have to start being honest with who you are and where you are. That's the big key. And then from there, you got to start asking, who do you want to be? So a piece that I left out about my story, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't just dominating the whole episode, was I had a very honest, angry conversation with myself in that mirror after I took my power back. I said, do you really, like, let's be honest here. I said, you really want to be known like this? You want to be known as a weak, helpless loser who's struggling with anxiety, who's having panic attacks because they need to make a decision, who's incapable of living life, who nobody will ever admire, who nobody wants to follow, who everyone has to pity, who everyone has to take care of. You really want to be this person? Like, this is what you want? You, even if you live till 80, you got another, what, freaking 50 years of living like this? You're okay with that? And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't want to be this person anymore. And then you ask the better questions. Great. Who do you want to be? Because if it ain't that person, you got to stop. But you can't stop unless you know where you want to go. So who do you want to be, man? I was like, okay, well, I want to be inspiring. I want to be courageous. I want to be confident. I want to be happy. I want to be funny. I want to be a leader. I want to do all of these things that make me powerful. I want people to look at me and be like, damn, that guy's got it. Like, how can I follow that guy? How can I learn from that guy? Like, how do I be that guy? I want to be that. So then the next question is, well, what do you do to do it? See, because I've never believed in the bullshit of fake it till you make it. And I'm a great experience or a great candidate to say it doesn't work. You can't fake it till you make it. You're always going to be aware of what you're doing is bullshit. But what I do tell people is you got to believe it until you become it. So when I said I no longer want to be that person, I want to be this person, by acknowledging that I was not yet that person, I was able to start asking, can I be that person? And are you willing to put in the work to be that person? And once I said yes, then that's where you start, like, you believe it until you become it. Because now that I acknowledge I am becoming this person, I want to be this person, I will take actions and do what I have to do to become this person, I can actually start building in that direction. So now I'm believing it, and now I'm doing things in alignment with what I believe. That's creating certain behaviors and patterns and habits and actions. And when you do that, you're not just believing anymore. Now you actually are that person, which means you've become it. And now the rest of the world just has to see it. So that's the process.
Listen, I'm Refocus Radio talking to our guest, Infante, and man, I'm a visual person. So when you talk and other people on my show talk, I always go into a movie theater and like visualize everything. I can't help but visualize because I'm into music and I played the trumpet since the 5th grade, and I don't touch it no more, but it's just going to be used as a metaphor. What's interesting is when I was in band, like, me and my classmates, we knew nothing. All we knew is that we picked the instrument that we wanted to apply in 5th grade, and then we just stuck with it, you know. So my point is, just because you have the instrument, you know, whether it's, you know, saxophone, trumpet, piano, drums, whatever it is, yeah, it looks nice, but it's sitting there collecting dust until you do something about it. So like you won't ever be able to master that instrument unless you apply, you know, what are the, like you said, identifying what are the things that's going to make it better. Because until you identify those things that will make it better, you're going to be the person that never practices, and you just have a nice instrument. You have a nice trumpet, you have a nice drum set, but man, you're terrible because you're not practicing. You're not doing nothing to make it your masterpiece.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's a great point. I want to bounce off your analogy, actually, just to really hit home for the listeners, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I love that analogy. That, like, I'm also a very visual person. I'm very creative. So when you were speaking about that, I was like, oh, dude, this guy got it. Like, you hit the proper analogy. When people say fake it till you make it, it's like sitting in the band while everyone's playing and you don't know how to fucking play.
That's good
And you're
right
just
there.
sitting there hitting the buttons, right?
Hey, yo, that's good right there, man. That's a good one. That's a mic drop moment right
Right?
there. That was good. No, it's true. Keep going, man, because I know you got more with that.
Yeah. So I was getting that visual, like when you're talking about that, I was like, that's fake it till you make it. But believing it until you become it is the opposite. It's you go in and you suck, but you know, hey, if I keep hitting the keys and I keep practicing, and maybe I get an instructor, I get a mentor, I hire a coach, or I hire a professional, or I ask my friends for help, or I show people I'm actually putting in the work and I'm doing it. I'm not just believing it. I actually am becoming it. I am it in the process, and now the world will see it. And then they'll hear you play your music when it's time for you to actually show what you know.
Man, that's some good stuff because that's a great metaphor just with life. And it's funny you say that because on my show, every now and then I'll say, like, your life is a blank canvas, but your gift is to paint. But what you do with your action is your mark on history. So it's the same thing with the music, same thing with your career, your field, whatever you're doing. It's up to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one's going to, like, sign up and do your task for you because you're just that guy who's in the band, just, throwing the drumsticks in the air, acting like you're making, hits. And you're not. You're just there, and that's not the way we're meant to live.
Yeah. Well, you're right on that, right? It's not. See, we've been fed so many lies, man, as kids, and they sound like they make sense, but when you get older, if you actually think about it, a lot of them is just bullshit, right? Probably heard knowledge is power. That I hate that saying, man. I yell at so many of my clients for that because they'll sit there and they'll just absorb knowledge, but knowledge is useless. Knowledge is only potential power. What you do with the knowledge is what's important. So I tell everyone, knowledge is useless, but action is everything. If you can't apply it, if you can't do anything with it, it's fucking pointless. Like, what are you going to do? If I told you, hey, go out and read 1,000 books about working out, but you're not allowed to ever go to the gym, you're not allowed to ever touch a weight, and you can't teach anyone what you know, the hell was the point of reading the 1,000 books? How did it benefit you? Did your body transform because you read the book? No. If you don't go actually take that info, work out, utilize what you learned about diet, and change, you're not going to get anything. One of my favorite quotes is probably something that everybody should memorize because it's by Aristotle, and I memorized this quote because it's super important. And it says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Yeah. If we don't do it, then we ain't going to become it. Period."
Once again, listening to Focus Radio, talking to our guest, Infante. Man, you can go to his website. It's easy. It's vincentinfante.life. And let's kind of tap into your services and what you do because, like we kind of touched on, we're trying to unlock the inner leader guy or gal and live our life to our fullest potential. And that's the key. Action. We're trying to live, not just think about it. Because you can think about this for the next 5 years. It ain't going to do you no good unless you actually start on day one. So when it comes to your services, what are some of the things that you work with your clients to make sure that they're a good fit and that they're serious about taking this next step?
Sure. So what I do is I do one-to-one coaching, which is a combination hybrid service, which is very unique. 99% of people cannot do what I do, nor do they do what I do, because I have a background in therapy. And so I do a combination of aspects of therapy, mentoring, and coaching. And when you're working with me, it's really to take a lot of action and create change in life or business. I work with high performers, as I would classify them. And these people are typically entrepreneurs, somebody who's already got a side hustle trying to become a full-time entrepreneur. They're business owners, startups. I work with big companies, big firms. And I help people really, what you said and what my little tagline is master their mindset and unlock their inner leader. And this allows people to get quicker results. I don't believe you need 10 years in therapy. That's why I created my own process, because I think the current model sucks. I think it needs to be improved, and I think it can be. And so my process is you come to me, we work for a few months. If you're ready, if you put in the work, I have to choose you. You can't just pay me and work with me. I'm not money hungry. I have to actually choose you as a client to work with me, because if you're not a good fit, I don't care about your money. I don't need it. I don't want it. I would rather work with somebody I could actually help. And I would rather give my time to somebody I could help. And if I can't give my time to somebody I help, I'd rather just use my time how I want, like playing video games or going to the gym or doing whatever the hell I want. Right. So you can't buy my time. I will allow you to buy my time if you're a good fit. So that's how I work with people in one-to-one capacity. I'm very careful about that. I also offer masterminds where it's connecting people with like-minded mindsets to solve problems in life and business. There's different tiers for different levels, whether it's starting entrepreneur or a 7 or 8 figure business owner, we have a place for you. And I do keynote speaking. I do workshops. I do seminars. And for anyone who can't work with me, I really, really hope you check out my social media. Check me out on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. I just started tweeting because apparently that's a thing now. So you can find me everywhere at Vin Infante. Quick search will put me up there, and you could connect with me any way you want.
Yeah, I like what the theme of this episode really truly is. I mean, I don't want to bore my listeners by having a long-winded, talk about, what we're talking about, but just get to the point and say, at the end of the day, it's a choice and then action. Because your choices, I had someone on the show who said, your choices is your life. That's what your life looks like now. So if you don't like the way your life looks, then you might want to start making different choices. So it's like hearing you for it. You think you can, you can't. Well, you're right either way, whatever you choose. And one of my favorite quotes that I share with people all the time, because it's a special quote, it's like my life. It's like my whole life story, because it was my motivation. I put it in my wallet until I walked across the stage, University of Toledo, because when I had my doubts, I would read this quote and it would just keep me like inspired, because it'll give me that reality check, like, hey, stop making excuses, man. Like, seriously. So the quote, real quick, Blaise Pascal, he said, in faith, there's enough light for those who want to believe, but also enough shadows to blind those who don't. And it's just a remix version of Henry Ford. So you think you can or you can't, you're right. It's just a longer version. But I like the way it's broken up, because Blaise Pascal, he wasn't even like a religious person, but he used the thing of faith. And I looked at it like faith as in like, you can't see it, but it's like, it's the goal. It's the positive motivation, but it's not good enough though, because you either going to trust the light that's going to guide you there, or you're going to be distracted by the shadows that will blind you. Because I think shadows can blind us if we focus on them. Because if you focus everything on the excuses and the distractions and the why I can't or why I suck or whatever, you just believe in the shadows, so you stay in the shadows. But coming to the light, it takes commitment and action. You got, like you said earlier, sick and tired of being sick and tired. Well, you really not sick and tired if you're playing the drums in the air or just fingering buttons on the trumpet or the keys.
Yep.
That you're not sick and tired yet. But I think what's funny is life will keep hitting you until you get sick and tired of it, and then you have to finally make that decision. Okay, the time's now. I played the dumb. Now it's time to get smart and just act on it. Just act on what it is I really need to do to change my life.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head. You should probably be a mindset coach too, I'd say. But
I appreciate it.
I love it, because you're right. There's one thing I definitely want to leave some of your listeners with. I think one of the problems with today's society is that we put too much emphasis on feelings. Feelings aren't real. They're just not. And I'll go to my death fighting for that point, because it's true. Feelings aren't facts. They're just indicators. But each feeling is there for a specific reason. For instance, anxiety is to warn you of danger, right? Depression is to force you to actually be introspective. They've done research on this. This is how it served our ancient ancestors. And they didn't just sit there and like lay in their caves for 3 months sad, right? Depression was, and people could look this up. I'm going to give you a technical term to Google. Analytical rumination hypothesis. You can find studies on it. It's basically what they found is that depression is actually us, or our central service systems, telling us, hey, something's wrong in your life and you need to figure it out. So it forces us inward, right? You probably notice when people get depressed, they get withdrawn. they care less about others and things, and they just focus on, well, what do I want to do? Well, I want to lay in bed for 3 days. So the problem with society nowadays is they're saying, oh, just lay in bed. You need 3 days? Lay in bed for 3 days. That's okay. You don't feel like it. Yeah, no, that's a fucking problem. If you're laying in bed for 3 days, it's because your body is like, hey, we got some shit to figure out. You got to get thinking. But what will we do? We'll lay in bed for 3 days. We'll drown ourselves in Netflix and crap food and, whatever the hell other crappy ideas we're choosing. If we're feeling anxiety, instead of figuring out why are we sensing fear? Like, what is it about this that's causing me to feel this thing? We're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling anxious. Let me just cancel my plans and cancel on everyone and sit home and lock myself in my room. Like, we have gone so far away from understanding ourselves that it continues to put us in these states where we have no way to empower ourselves. And your quotes hit on the head. I love studying quotes because quotes are timeless pieces of wisdom. Henry Ford is long dead and gone, but here we are talking about him. And so if you study quotes, you also take brilliant pieces of knowledge from the past and bring them to your life. I study quotes deeply because they're important. And people need to understand what you said, man. You're right. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you think you're going to lay in bed for 3 days because you're depressed, you're right. Or if you're like me and you believe you could overcome it, you're right. And I'm telling you, your listeners, because that's who I'm talking to right now, you guys could overcome anything. You have to just put in the damn work.
Boom. That was a drop mic moment. I mean, yeah, it's crazy because I was just talking to someone about this. All the people I have on my show, like yourself, is always a common thread. That's like, I don't have bad episodes, man, because I went through the worst ones already. When I got started, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. It was really more about me and my ego. Like, hey, look at me. I got a show. Come on my show. Me. But now, years gone by, been doing it since 2017. And now it's like, nah, man, this is really about everyone having a chance to voice their self. Like, let me shine myself into this world so that people can see from my perspective. And since I, embraced that idea, the show just blown up. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's the same thing with like whoever's listening to this, episode, listening to you talk. It's the same thing for this situation. The reason why your thing has not blown up is because you have not tried. And try does not mean you thought about it. Because anybody can think about working out and watch it on TV and eat some of them donuts. That's not trying. That's living in denial. Because you're avoiding the very thing that's stopping you from getting to your goal, and that's you. Like you said, the guy you see in the mirror. I can't help but thought about Michael Jackson. Look in the man in the mirror and make that change. It sounds cliche, but it's true, because change is action. Change is not a thought. And I think the more we can stop thinking about just dumb stuff, the more we will start doing smart stuff. And I feel like we compare ourselves to too many things and too many people, because when we think of ourselves doing something, we feel like we had to swing the bat and hit a home run when all you really need to do is hit the ball. Everyone wants to do some big shot. Okay, if I'm on Instagram, I need 10,000 followers in 30 days. No, you got to be on your journey. You may only have 3 followers or 30 followers for 2 months. But at least you won't be buying your way of social proof, because everyone wants to buy followers now. Same thing, everyone wants to play the drums in the air. But if you're, like you saying in the show, if you took the time to practice what it is you're trying to do, you have a better fighting chance than the person who just thinks about it.
Right on, man. You're not wrong. It's just a measure. People don't want to put in the work. You're so right. Like, let me go buy followers. Let me go buy likes. Let me go rent the Ferrari, take a photo with it, return it, get back into my 1920s Toyota.
It's like someone going to McDonald's and getting a Happy Meal, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to eat it. I just want to take a selfie with it.
Right. Dude, it's crazy. But see, that's the thing. Like, if you know the secret, then you know the secret. Like, the secret is just consistency. I've blown up. and it may not look like it because I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, but I do very well financially. I have multiple businesses. I work with a lot of really powerful people. My network is ridiculous. And I'm not saying that to brag, but it's like, I don't look successful. If you look at my social media, I have like 5,000 followers on Instagram, right? And I've been featured in a few articles like Forbes and stuff like that. And that's cool. But I don't have 200,000 followers. I'm not posting $1 million bank accounts. I'm not showing photos of Ferraris. And so people might look at me and be like, oh, I don't know if that guy's successful. And then you'll look at the guy who's got that shit and you're like, oh, he's successful. Meanwhile, that guy rented all of it.
And he scams you.
They've literally even done stories, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, he ends up scamming you, like, out of your money. Because he does his pyramid scheme and then you wonder why you broke. But
exactly, dude.
But I think you hit something. I might have to have you on in the future. But I feel like you hit on something that is very like fundamental for our listeners. And it's to simply own up to the reality, right? Because until you own up to the reality, you can never be released to your fullest potential. Because it's almost like you're carrying all this dead weight with you until you own up. Because once you own up, I feel like that dead weight just goes away and you actually can live a life of freedom because you're not trying to be this false identity.
Right. You're right, man. Dude, I love it. I love it. It's all about just embracing you, embracing what you have, embracing what you want to bring, and then keeping the vision alive. It's taken me, I started my business part-time while I was a firefighter. And then it's been full-time now for 2.5, coming up on 3 years. And I did about 2 years part-time, about 3 years full-time. And I could tell you, man, it's this year where I'm seeing the most fruition. It's taken me half a decade to be like, yeah, I'm actually pretty successful now. But I mean, people don't want to put in half a decade. People don't want to go through what I went through, where my girlfriend had to pay my credit card bill 1 month, where I was crying because I had no money and I was contemplating getting a 9 to 5. People don't want to go through that shit. People want the Ferrari now. They want to launch a product and get 100,000 followers and then make $1 million in sales. And that has to happen within a year or, fuck it. But that's not reality. And social media makes it even harder to decipher what is. I think, and it's always funny whether you believe it or not, right? I like using the term the Matrix because it is the fucking Matrix. Like that, half the shit you see isn't real. And if you believe it is, that's your problem. That's why you're stuck. That's why you're not happy. Focus more on you and not the bullshit in the Matrix.
Yeah, if only life was easy like that, we can just have a genie with you and have him fix all your problems. But usually that's not the case. And I think people like yourself who are successful, they find that out. And that's why we have this platform. We're trying to help people find that out for themselves, because you can spend too many years basically going in circles, or you can take your time. There's a proverb somewhere. I'm probably gonna mess it up, but the first to get to the 1,000 steps or whatever. I know I'm messing it up. I'm just paraphrasing.
Oh, I know that saying.
Yeah, can you say it? It's you gotta take the first step.
Sure. Yeah, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
Yeah, so that's what it's really about. Like, if you listen to this, you can't take nothing else from any other interview I do. I can probably retire right now just with this this last statement. You gotta take that step, man, and you gotta keep taking that step, because it's like it's like the quote: "There's enough light to guide you there, but there's also distractions, aka shadows, that will keep you stuck." That's the way you gotta look at it. If I'm not growing, ask yourself why I'm not growing. I'm sure you probably had to do that with you. You had to look in the mirror and say, okay, yeah, you know what? This fake it till I make it, it's just not cutting out. And eventually, I think that's what happens. And if you're fortunate enough, we can catch it earlier on before we expire. Because there's a guy who was on my show who was a retired Air Force guy, longest serving African-American Air Force. And he said, man, no one cares about the day you're born or the day you die. It's about the dash. What did you do with your time on this earth? That's the only thing that matters. It's not about what you thought about. It's not what you was trying to do to fake till you make it. Because no one's going to talk about that. Hey, you remember Johnny? He was playing the drumsticks in their ear. He's the best drummer in the world, but too bad we couldn't hear
him. I love that. Can I give you is one of my favorite quotes or favorite things I heard.
Yeah.
Back when I was really transforming myself, I used to listen to a lot of speech compilations on YouTube. And I think I really can't remember the voice. It might have been Denzel Washington. I'm not sure, but it sounded like him. And he said, "You know where the richest place in the world is?" And a bunch of people were shouting out answers. USA, Dubai, blah, blah, blah. He's like, "No, you're all wrong. It's the graveyard. The graveyard is where people go with million, billion, even $1 trillion ideas, and they let it die with them because they were too afraid to do it, or they were too busy doing some other stupid shit, or they were too busy suffering, or they were too busy in their own way, and they were too busy with this or that. Whatever the case is, they never went there." And I took that saying and I like deeply implanted it in my mind, because now it's become a motivator. In fact, some people think I'm crazy, and your audience might as well, but I like to go for runs in the graveyard. Honestly, I'll go for a run outdoors in the graveyard because I'm doing that to remind myself my obligation is to come here broke as a joke. Come here with nothing to contribute, nothing to give. If you go to that graveyard worth even $1, you fucked up in life. You have to go there and not contribute to the wealth that's already there, because there's too much. All the net wealth in the world is buried in that place. And so my goal is to go there absolutely worth less than a penny, maybe even go there in debt.
Right. Nah, that's a very interesting concept, and I like that, because, and I'll wrap it up with this last statement, but it's back to what we've been talking about, unlocking the inner leader. Can you imagine, now just stick with me on this because it might sound crazy to my audience, but I think you'll get me. Imagine if you kept that inner leader locked up until the grave, and then he's mad at you, fussing at you like, "Bro, why did you not let me out, man? You had all this time."
Yeah.
And now I'm buried with you. That's what I'm getting right now when I'm thinking about this. It's like, if you don't unlock the inner leader in yourself today, tomorrow's not promised. He can be buried with you forever because you chose to play it safe. You chose to quit, or you chose to basically not believe in yourself. So you choose that excuse and be like, "Oh, I'm never going to be this and never going to be that." Well, it's your fault. It's no one else's fault. You can't go to the grave and be like, it was so-and-so. It was them. Nah, it's going to be you. You held yourself back.
Yeah, man. You're 100% right. I love it. When you die, you're going to meet the version of yourself that you were supposed to become if you didn't do it here on the earth. Man,
on that note, dropping mics all day, man. We've been talking to our special guest, Vincent Infante. You go to his website, vincentinfante.life. Call to action. Someone listeners right now and they ready to take that action and connect with you if they are a good fit. What's the best way they can do that?
You could fill out a free session assessment on my website. It says book your strategy session, or just DM me on Instagram, DM me on TikTok, LinkedIn, or send me an email at vincent@vincentinfante.life. That's my email, vincent@vincentinfante.life.
Once again, man, true honor talking to Vin today. You listen to this right now, make sure you share this with somebody, because somebody out there, they need to hear this. They need that inspiration, motivation, encouragement to take action. And you yourself, you owe it to yourself to take action. Don't be passive, man. Don't quit anymore. Today's a change that you can start now. Don't put it off. Like I said, tomorrow's not promised. So now's just start now. So once again, man, I want to say thanks to Vin. Take your time to schedule. Talk to Army Focus Radio, man.
All right. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you.